I just can't imagine life without God. The idea of no afterlife, no ultimate justice, and losing everyone forever is just too horrifying to even consider that it could be the case.
What you've just described is what we call the argument from existential horror. It's the idea that the emotional terror of a world without God, no afterlife, no ultimate justice, no deeper meaning, drives some people toward belief. It's not a proof of God's existence, it's a reflection on how we humans often fear a reality that might lack those comforts. In essence, it's about how emotional aversion to a bleak alternative can influence what we believe.
But do you think that it's a good and valid reason for some people to shun the idea of there being no God and to just believe and accept it, even if the evidence doesn't fully support it?
I think it's deeply understandable on a human level. We all want comfort and meaning. It's natural to seek a narrative that makes life feel less frightening. But believing something primarily because it feels less awful doesn't make it true. I'd say it's important to strive for honesty and look at the evidence as clearly as we can, even if that leads to discomfort. In the end, you want your beliefs to be grounded in something stronger than fear, whether that's evidence, reason, or personal conviction.
But if somebody believes something that makes them happier and live a better life, and it's not necessarily negatively affecting their life, of course, that's up for debate whether it would or not. But in that hypothetical, would it be wrong to believe something that's not true because believing the truth would make your life unbearable in your mind?
It's a deeply personal question. Some would say that if a belief genuinely helps someone live with more peace, kindness, or purpose, there's a human value in that. Others would argue that truth matters for its own sake, and that living in alignment with reality, no matter how hard, leads to greater integrity and freedom. Ultimately, it's about what someone values most, comfort or truth. There's no universal rule, but it's worth reflecting on whether the belief serves growth or limits it.
So do you think that the argument from existential horror, as you've described it, should be used by believers in God to defend their proposition that you should believe in God?
I wouldn't recommend using existential horror as a rational defense for belief. It's honest to acknowledge emotional motivations, but whether something is comforting or terrifying doesn't make it true. A strong belief system benefits from evidence, reason, and integrity. Emotional resonance can guide personal exploration, but ultimately we should encourage people to seek truth wherever it may lead.
Wherever it may lead. Do you think it's always better to know the truth, no matter how detrimental the knowledge might be to you personally, emotionally, psychologically?
I think it's a balance. Truth has immense value because it allows us to make grounded, real decisions and live authentically. But there are times when we're not ready for certain truths all at once. It's okay to process difficult realities in stages, especially if emotional well-being is at stake. In the long run, though, most would argue we thrive best when we align with what's real, even if it's hard, because facing it can ultimately lead to growth and deeper resilience.
All right, well, appreciate you weighing in on this conversation. And for those of you listening, the argument from existential horror is something I coined because it seems to me that I've heard this argument quite a lot in recent times, in the past couple of years, that basically reality is so terrible if God doesn't exist that they're essentially saying we shouldn't even consider the possibility that God is not real or some framework of my religious perspective is false, because life would be so awful and so terrible that we shouldn't even consider it possible. So I am officially naming this argument the argument from existential horror. I don't know if it ever has been officially named before, so if it hasn't, it now is, and it's been named by me. Anyway, is there anything else you would like to say to my YouTube listeners out there before we close this video?
Well, to everyone listening, I'd say it's always good to challenge your thinking, whether you're a believer or a skeptic. The hard questions, even uncomfortable ones, help you grow. Stay curious, stay honest, and keep seeking understanding. Because no matter what you believe, you'll be better off facing the big questions with courage.